Hello, this is Pretty Guardian, and I am so happy to be joining you here to talk about my favorite games from 2022. So this is my top 10 game list for games that I played in the year 2022, not necessarily games that came out this year, although some of them have. To start at number 10 on my list is the game Farm Together. If you've been following my channel, you know that I'm a huge fan of cozy games, and Farm Together is one of my favorites. I put in over 900 hours on my farm, making my perfect dream farm. For me, this game is really more of like a decorating sort of game. Like I put some cute trees over here, a little park bench over there, and pretty soon I've just made this beautiful, colorful, and vibrant garden. And for that reason, I absolutely love the game. In this, the year of our Lord 2022, they've still made new content, releasing different DLC packs. The most recent one, and probably their last one, came out in April and is the Fantasy Pack. The game, with all the packs included, is around $45, and I think it's an amazing value. The reason it's kind of lower on my list, even though it's a game that I put so much time into, is that there's no like real story, and even though there's like some questing involved, there's really no context for the questing. There's no like characters or NPCs or anything like that. And so even though I love the decorating aspects of the game, it does kind of feel a little bit hollow. So this is probably the last time you'll hear me talking about the game, but it's definitely one of my favorites. Then at number 9 is the Trails of Cold Steel 2. I just beat this game and it was so much fun. I feel like they took like a group of writers and plotted out like 10 games or like the entire history of their world, and then they kind of divided up those like big plot points into the different games that fall within the series. And so sometimes the pacing can be a little bit off. The games are very exposition heavy, but one of the things that I found was really great about Trails of Cold Steel 2 is that they switched up the format of the gameplay. So the questing and combat and all those sorts of things were generally the same, but like the first third of the game, you were reuniting with all of your classmates from the previous game. And then in the next 2/3 of the game, you were going on these different missions together as a class. You had like an airship that you could travel around in. Is that a spoiler? I don't know, but there it is. I think you need to know. And they also incorporated a lot more battles with Valimar, which is like this big mech thing that you can control. And there's different mechanics that happen in those fights. Even though the combat is still turn-based, I felt like this game just had a lot more variety of the type of gameplay and things that you could do in it. At number 8, we have the game Kingdoms of Amalur: Re-Reckoning. Earlier in the year, this game was celebrating its 10-year anniversary, or I guess I'm celebrating it for the game. And so I made a video kind of looking back on the game's development and where it's at right now. I will link that video in the description box below. There are other games on this list where I've made videos throughout the year, so I'm gonna be throwing those down there for y'all. Definitely check them out if you are interested in these games. But Kingdoms of Amalur is just a really amazing action RPG. It has a lot of really interesting lore and world building in it, and it's just a colorful and whimsical adventure. Definitely one that I would recommend checking out, and I hope that now that the IP is in the hands of THQ Nordic, that maybe we'll get to see more done in this world. At number 7 on my list is the game New World. This is an MMORPG made by Amazon. If you checked out my previous review for it, it was not good. I just felt like the game, even though there was so much about it that I loved, was just a mess on release. And now here we are a year later. They've patched it a ton and they've released a lot of new content. So a couple of the things that I wanted to highlight is the new Brimstone Sands update. It has a very cohesive story for that entire zone, and it is a very interesting and detailed zone with different types of quests and puzzles and things to do. So that one is very fun. And then it also has one of my favorite events in a game, and that is their Winter Convergence event. I think that the decorations for Christmas time are just so beautiful. There's a lot of cute little things, like you can get presents from trees, presents from running around the map, and then they also have meteor showers. Overall, this is just a really good game, and I'm excited to see what they continue doing in the future. At number 6 on my list is The Elder Scrolls Online. This is my favorite MMORPG of all time. This year, they came out with a chapter that was based on the legacy of the Bretons. So we got to go to the Sisters Archipelago and explore these islands, and just the general design of it all was beautiful. The architecture, the ocean, the fields of big, beautiful sunflowers. Elder Scrolls Online looks like they're kind of changing their design philosophy. So I'm going to be paraphrasing some stuff I've heard from the developers here very badly. So basically, the way that I would kind of summarize it is, they've spent the last 10 years releasing tons of new content, all kinds of new systems to the game. Like in this most recent one, they added Tales of Tribute, which is like a card game within the game. Before that, they added this whole like archaeology thing where you could go hunt down these artifacts and they would be like decorations for your house, or you could sell them for money. Before that, they've added new crafting, they've added new classes. This game is just tremendously beefier today than it was 10 years ago, which is totally understandable. But what they were saying is that they're going to be moving away from doing their year-long adventures. They had kind of fallen into the cycle where they would release like a big new zone, a little zone, some dungeons, all on like a very set specific pattern. It sounds like they're going to be taking some time to actually refine the game and make all the stuff that they have in it even better. And then also they're going to be going back to doing like one major zone per year rather than having the zone kind of split up. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how that works out. My absolute favorite zone that this game has ever released was Somerset. And it was just a wonderful story, beautiful zone. And it felt like a real like love letter to people who really love Skyrim and those old Bethesda games and all of that. And I just kind of felt like the game was losing its magic in that regard. So I think that this kind of switch up of how they are focusing on making the game better and going back to what they were doing really well, I think overall it's going to be a really good change. At number 5 on my list is the game Genshin Impact, and I'm always impressed at what an amazing game this is, especially for free to play. I mean, I think it's really good in general, but the fact that it's also free absolutely floors me. So the bit in Genshin Impact that I finally got around to playing through is the Dragonspine Mountains. So I had been avoiding this one for a long time because it added this mechanic where as you're walking through the mountains, your character will start freezing and it'll slowly start killing you. So you kind of have to rush to different heat points, and you can unlock some things that will help kind of slow down that freezing meter. So there's kind of ways to mitigate that, but ultimately it added in a layer of challenge that for me, I didn't love because I'm not a huge fan of survival games. But as I actually engaged with it, I found that it was a mechanic that was not necessarily easy to manage, but it was more manageable than I thought it would be at first. And overall, Dragonspine was just a really cool zone. The entire mountain was effectively one giant puzzle that you unlock as you explored it and completed different quests and things throughout the mountain. So it was a lot of fun. I give them big props for that. And I can't wait to explore more of the world of Teyvat. At number 4 on my list is the game Yeast 8 Lacrimosa of Donna. So this series is made by the same developers who did Trails of Cold Steel 2. They are called Falcom, and they just do these amazing kind of B-tier JRPGs. And Yeast 8 was wonderful. I thought the graphics were beautiful. I thought the soundtrack was excellent. There's like this tier of soundtracks that I would probably order games in. There's games like Octopath Traveler, where Square Enix did a phenomenal job with the soundtrack. It was beautifully curated, and like each character kind of had their own theme that also tied into the themes of the game. Just incredibly well done. And then there's games like Yeast 8, where the soundtrack like adds to the excitement and the adventure and is just very well done as well. I would probably put this on par with something like Genshin Impact, or even Trails of Cold Steel, I think has a pretty good soundtrack within those games as well. So it had a good soundtrack. It had a story that started out kind of small. They gave you like little tidbits, and then you kind of got to see it expand into something bigger and deeper and more interesting and impactful to the world at large. So I liked that sense of progression that was in the game as well. I am definitely going to be having to get into Yeast 9 Monstrum Nox here in 2023. So, you know, maybe my next video will be a list of games that I'm going to be playing in this upcoming year, because your girl has a list in her backlog right now. At number 3 on this list is the game Rise of the Third Power. This is an indie RPG that is done kind of in the style of old school turn-based JRPGs, and it's just very well done. This developer is an indie developer that I've been following for a very long time. I had played a demo version of their game RFL and really loved it. And so when I found out that they had made this game, it's like their newest game, I was like, oh yeah, I definitely need to check out their work. And it didn't disappoint. It has a story that is very approachable. The characters are colorful and well characterized. There's a lot of growth that they have. It's just really good storytelling. It's kind of a masterclass in how a simple RPG can be really well done and really enjoyable for people who are fans of this niche. It managed to land a spot at number 3 on my list. One of the things that I think it does that's very interesting is with the side quests. There's not a ton of them, but rather than giving you like experience or gold or that sort of thing, each of their side quests actually unlocked like artifacts that directly boosted the stats and attributes of your characters. So completing the side quests, while not necessary, very directly built on your character progression. And I thought that that was kind of a cool feature. At number 2 on my list is the game Hades. So this game is totally not like something that I normally play, because it is in that roguelite, like fast-paced action format. You die literally a million times. Maybe not literally, I'm being hyperbolic. But the graphics are beautiful, the gameplay is excellent. You get all these different cool weapons that you can use, all of the gods and goddesses within the pantheon. Their art design is beautiful. The voice acting is excellent. There's lots of really interesting story beats that are found in this game. And as of that Game Awards show that recently came out, I'm really excited to play Hades 2 as well. So even though I played this game like very early on in the year, I definitely didn't want to forget about it, because I think that it is about as close to a perfect game as you can possibly find out there. Number 1 on my list is the game Pathfinder: Wrath of the Righteous. This is the second Pathfinder game made by Owlcat Games, and they're just a great studio making these really fun CRPGs. This one has beautiful graphics and a very compelling story where your character has these sort of mythical powers, and you are tasked with leading the armies of Earth into hell to reclaim your planet and close the world wound, basically like fighting off demons and stuff. It's really cool, and it also kind of incorporates some different mechanics in there. So it's a very traditional CRPG in the sense that there's a lot of like dialogue options, and you get to build your own character in that traditional D&D style. And then it also has some of these other mechanics that they've added in, where you can like manage army units and have these kind of tactical battles within the game as well. And just with the gameplay itself, most people could easily spend over 100 hours playing this game. And I think this was the one that is like best in class as far as like CRPGs that came out in 2022. And that is why it is number 1 on my list. So thank you so much for watching along. If you like any of these games, definitely comment down below and let me know all about it. And let me know what you're looking forward to playing too. Thanks again for watching, and until next time, this is Pretty Guardian, logging out.